No, I
Change your
didn't.
password?
Yeah, no, I did not. Thanks for that. Oh, thanks for that reminder.
We should let Vic know so she gets ready when you blow it out.
Are you watching this, Vic? Okay. Are you ready?
It was not. It's 25 years old. They actually said it was yeah, it was July 1st, 1997. It was debuted. Yeah. Lion's chocolate mousse.
What do they select every year?
I have no idea. It was
That's
all.
disturbing.
There was also like a couple of bears around it, bunch of bears.
Why not?
Yeah.
You're gonna do a moose.
Yeah. No, that was sort of a. I was just looking up online at one point to see what was in the area we were in, and I saw that, and I said that to Sam as a joke, and she's like, "Oh, there's a place that has a moose." I'm like, "Well, now I gotta go look at the moose." What's going on?
Oh, you were
Oh,
signing as you. Yes, you have to click authenticate.
yeah.
If
It
you don't
doesn't
click
always do it.
authenticate, then you are just in. You are like every other community member, and then you can't see the good stuff.
Oh, is that what I
There's
did?
so much good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there isn't.
Not for the organization.
Yeah.
Actually, not even really for the board meeting.
No, really, just the CSE meeting.
You're hot. It's chilly.
Okay, folks ready? I will call the meeting to order at 6:02. First order of business is nomination for the president. Take any nominations? Oh,
That's
First, we're gonna salute the flag.
we gotta salute the flag.
yes.
Sorry. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I do apologize.
You don't get to run this meeting all that often.
It's okay, we get it. It's summer.
All right. We'll do election of officers. I will accept nominations for president. Yes.
I would like to nominate Shane Mitchell for president.
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations? All right. Tony, yay or nay?
Yay.
Sarah,
Yay.
Davis,
Yay.
Francis,
Yeah.
Melissa,
Yay.
Teresa.
Yay.
Okay. Shane, you will be our new president. Nomination for vice president.
I would like to nominate Melissa Peterson.
I'd like the second.
Are there any other nominations? Tony, how do you feel?
Yay.
Sarah,
Yay.
Shane,
Yay.
Davis,
Yay.
Francis,
Yay.
and Teresa.
Yay.
Melissa, do you accept?
I do, thank
All
you.
right. You will be our new vice president.
Thank you.
And I will need to swear you folks in.
stand up.
You can stand up, please. Shane, do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to the best of your ability, the duties of the office of Board of Education President?
I do.
Okay.
Complete that, please.
Melissa, do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to the best of your ability, the duties of office of Board of Education Vice President?
I do.
Okay, and if you'll fill that out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just a quick diversion before we hit the first item. I'd like to acknowledge our new board members, Avis Sanchez and Sarah Kwizdowski.
Thank you.
They've joined the board, and this is their first board meeting, so welcome aboard
Thank you very much.
to the board. How many times can I say that? Item 1, appointments for the 2022-2023 school year. 2021 to 2022, incumbents are in parentheses, followed by recommended appointments for 22 and 23, as listed. Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Thank you, Tony. A second? Okay, Melissa? Any questions or comments?
I'll just make a comment for the new board members that these are all people, all required positions. And so a lot of these folks have done this. This is just one of the many hats that we have to wear in the district.
Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on to item 2. Additional appointments and designations for the 2022-2023 school year, as listed. I will note there's 2 fill-ins. Do I have a motion? Okay, Melissa, thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Francis, thank you. Questions or comments?
I think Teresa said she was going to,
Yep.
Teresa was going to do Capital District, right, Teresa?
Yes, I'm
And
happy to do
Francis
that.
is doing a Schoharie representative now,
No, regular
so
board
that
meeting
needs to
now.
be changed. It
Yeah.
looks
So we would amend the motion to add their 2 names.
Yeah, Teresa's currently listed as Schoharie rep, so we move her to Capital District and put Fran in
Get the 6:30.
as Schoharie rep.
Excuse me, you're gonna have to project better than that. It's very hard to hear you.
Sir, we have microphones.
No, the new president, fine. The vice president, or no, is that the other way around? Anyway, please do, because we wanna hear what you're saying.
Okay. Does everyone have their mics on?
Yes.
I know Francis does.
Yeah. The Mary Jules position, the child nutrition program, that'll be fulfilled by someone at BOCES? Yes. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So technically, I think we have an amendment here. So we would need to go forward with the amendment and then vote again on the amended item. So the amendment is to add Teresa's name under Capital District, if I have that correct.
Yes.
And Francis's name under Schoharie Rep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. And now we have to vote on the overall item. So any questions or comments on that? So as amended, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Item 3, approve stipends and authorizations as listed. Do I have a motion?
A motion?
Thank you, Teresa. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tony, thank you. Questions or comments?
What piece are we at? I'm sorry.
We're on item
Item
3,
three.
the top of page 4 of 5.
Okay, I think I'm a little lost. I'm on the agenda item details.
I'll come over.
Okay.
Just while they're looking at that, the 2150 is just like it's cash in the cash register for day one.
I did the authenticate.
So we're here, this is confusing because we're here to meetings tonight.
Right.
So I think you might have to re-authenticate again.
You're in the right meeting. Just see if you're, so you can see everything.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's 2 meetings.
Yep, click on that. Okay.
It gets better after this
And
one.
then click on view the agenda.
Okay.
And then this is how, usually this is over here. This one's over here, I don't know why.
Okay.
That's how it was, but then they're just
There.
Yeah,
Some
thank
things
you
are
on item. Sorry about that.
Okay, gotcha.
There. Yeah, and then just scroll down. Keep going, because you're gonna get to, I think it's page.
Is it not this one?
No, go back. Yeah, it should be that. Click that again. And we are right there. Okay,
Thank you so much.
Okay, any questions, comments on item 3?
No, we're good now.
Okay, no problem. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on to item 4, adopt district plans. Recommendation that the Duanesburg Board of Education adopt the following plans as recommended by the superintendent and building principals. Mentor program, professional development plan, district safety plan, shared decision-making plan, 2022 to 2025 instructional technology plan, and the response to intervention plan. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Melissa. Second?
I'll second.
Francis? Thank you. Questions or comments?
Can we have, I thought we were going to review them individually. Are we not doing
You
that?
can
You can do that. You want to
Okay.
start at the top?
Well, I just had.
Or do you have
some-
one in mind?
I just had some questions because, pretty new at this.
No problem. That's why we're here.
Okay. So I don't know. I think I had the questions in the email. I saw that Dan McConnell was removed. So my question about the district safety plan is that how are the children taught these plans, like the younger children I'm more concerned about, because it can be a scary event for their age group. Do the teachers come up with a better way to, instruct them how to be safe in the event of a threat?
Yeah, there are lots of different ways that we've done this. So safety plans, for the last couple of years, it's really been because of COVID, because we haven't wanted to do things like, gather in a corner of the room where people are right next to each other.
Right.
We've been doing a lot more of their videotape things that teachers have created that run through safety plans like this, and then also talking through the things in class as opposed to doing it full speed.
Okay.
So it's never a thing. We try to do these things, so that people are prepared, but we aren't aiming to terrify anybody when we're doing these plans. And so
Okay.
the developmental level of the kids really matters. So so it would depend on the grade level, what specifically is done. But sometimes you do have to walk through these things so that kids can feel, what they would do in case of these emergencies. But there are no like flashbangs and people yelling and
Okay.
at speed kind of drilling in the elementary school at all.
Yeah, I was just curious
Yeah.
about that as I
Yeah.
was reading through it.
No, I understand.
Can I ask about the safety plan while we're on the safety
Oh,
plan?
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you guys.
That's all right.
I know that the list of folks on the crisis response team was not exhaustive,
Mhm.
but just wondering if it makes sense to identify one of our school social workers, because I noticed that they're not listed as a foundational person, or I'm losing the word, but.
Yeah, we could certainly add that.
Okay.
I have another question. I was just wondering why the officer of the school wasn't listed on the safety plan, because I see how you have all the names and who does what. So I was wondering why the officer wasn't on there. Or is
District
he?
safety plan?
Is he?
He is.
Eric Ryle, yeah.
Oh,
I didn't see that part because I was looking at everything else. Okay. All right, I'm good with that memo. For the BLT plan, the shared decision-making plan.
Yep.
I was just curious, for the teacher selection process, why is it necessary for a teacher to be a part of the Dwaynesburg Teachers Association?
So a teacher could elect not to be in the Dwaynesburg Teachers Association. Right now, though, all of our teachers are in the Teachers Association.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's just the organization that would recommend people for the shared decision-making team.
Okay, and then for the same thing, I was wondering, why does the DCPTA have input on a parent, like what parent is elected?
Yeah, and I think that's something that was like a legacy from the earlier plan because of convenience.
Okay.
So there's an organization in the community that has elected officers, and it's got parents in it. And so that seemed like probably a logical group to recommend a parent. So I don't know if you'd have any other suggestions for that.
I know that there's several committees, right? So, I mean, I would have to...
Each school.
Yeah, I would have to look at all the committees and see where that would fit in.
Yeah. It's usually pretty difficult to get people to volunteer time.
Yeah.
It's usually more of a begging situation than a limiting situation. And so I know that sometimes, the principals will get who's available for those committees.
Do parents know that they can volunteer for this committee?
So usually people are asked individually, and it's
Okay.
not opened up to the whole community. But there are lots of times when people can volunteer for other committees.
Okay, all right. Also, on that memo, Celeste, the last page is completely blank. I didn't know if that was left blank for a reason.
if it's an odd number of pages,
Oh, okay.
the last page will be blank.
Okay,
Because when I scan through it, I scan two-sided copies.
okay.
Don't
gotcha. I didn't know if anyone else had any questions about that one.
This is still the shared decision-making plan
Yeah.
we're talking about. I was just curious, how was that committee selected that did the plan editing? Because a lot of it talks about parent involvement, and
Yep.
I don't see any parents that were part of it.
No, the shared decision-making plan was something that I sent out to faculty to ask for volunteers to revise the plan.
Okay, so just the fact that it's discussing parental involvement, how did we address how parents want to be involved in the best way to kind of incorporate that into the plan, since that's what we're trying to achieve with it?
Right. But we didn't have any parent members for this overarching plan, but that doesn't mean that the parents won't sit on the other committees. So they'll sit in on the building level committees. But to revise the plan, we didn't have a standing committee. And time was of the essence to get this up and approved. But so the key thing here is that the shared decision-making parts are really parts that are happening at the building level.
Anyone else on that plan? Okay, any other questions or comments on any of the other plans?
Let me see. So for the RTI, I was just wondering, do we have to use Common Core anymore? Is it mandated, or is this something that the school can get rid of?
Can the school get rid of Common Core?
Yes.
So we follow the New York State curriculum, and so they've since adopted different names for stuff, and I think it's next gen standards right now.
Okay.
So I don't even know that Common Core is still a term that's used.
Oh.
So if it's still in the RTI plan, we could probably update it.
Yeah, it was in the RTI plan.
We
That's
still
what
do follow and have to follow New York State curriculum though.
Okay, all right. And that, yep, that was it for that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any of the plans? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on to item 5, readopt Code of Ethics and all existing board policies. Renew all policies, bylaws, policy resolutions, and regulations from the 2021-2022 school year. Do I have a motion?
Oh, motion.
Francis, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Avis? Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item 6, adopt Public Officers Law 18 and Education Law 3811. Resolved that the Duanesburg Central School District shall supplement the protection given all board members, officers, and employees of the school district acting within the scope of their employment of duties under Education Law Section 3811 by providing coverage and protection for all board members, officers, and employees of the school district acting within the scope of his/her public employment of duties as prescribed by Section 18 of the New York State Public Officers Law. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Teresa. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Melissa, thanks. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item 7, bonding of personnel. Be it resolved that the Board of Education clarifies that the necessary coverage for district employees, and more specifically, the district treasurer and tax collector, is within the district's insurance coverage and general liability policy as set forth by its insurance carrier. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Tony, thank you. Second? Okay, Teresa, thanks. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on to item 8, announce 2023-2024 annual budget vote, Board of Education election date, excuse me. Per revised Education Law 2022, the annual budget vote, BOE election, will be a Tuesday, May 16th, 2023, as determined by the New York State Education Department. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Avis. Second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Tony. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. And that appears to conclude our reorganization meeting. Okay. Do I have a motion to
I'll
move
motion.
to the regular meeting? Was that a motion, Sarah?
motion.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Francis, thanks. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so now we move on to the regular meeting.
3 minutes early.
So you have to sign in again.
No, you shouldn't have to sign in.
Oh, I
Should just be
don't?
able to change rooms.
Just change window.
Okay. Call the meeting to order at 6:27. Okay. Okay. Any agenda changes? And those were already sent out? Okay, thank you. Not on the agenda. No? Okay, the next item is privilege of the floor, public comment. The board encourages public participation at board meetings during a specific portion of the agenda entitled Privilege of the Floor, Public Comment. The public comment section is not the time or place to register complaints about individuals or items that have not first been addressed through proper channels with those closest to the issue, such as a teacher, the building principal, the superintendent, or other appropriate party. Individuals making statements during privilege of the floor are expected to be courteous and respectful, modeling for our students how one can participate and have their voice heard in situations where there is agreement or disagreement with others' views. If members of the public have gone through proper channels and still wish to discuss a matter with the board, they can submit their comments in writing to the board clerk. At its discretion, the board may invite visitors to its meetings to participate in the board's discussion of matters on the agenda. The public comment section is an opportunity for residents and residents only to address the Board of Education. Public comment should take place only in the portion of the agenda designated. This is usually at the beginning of each meeting. Persons wishing to address the board must indicate their desire to speak in advance on the sign-in sheet. Because the board typically has many business items on its agenda, speakers must confine their comments to 3 minutes. The board will not address specific questions or comments, but may ask for your name and contact information in the event follow-up is necessary. The board will not permit in public session discussion involving individual personnel or students. Persons wishing to discuss matters involving individual personnel or students should present their comments and/or concerns to the superintendent, who will share them with the board at the next executive session. So on the sheet one person has indicated they would like to speak. Walt Silva, if you could come down to the microphone, please.
I'm going to have to lower this a little bit here. All right.
She did that to you on purpose.
I know. Yeah, my daughter did that. She knew. All right. So I appreciate the time to address the board. The item I'd like to talk about is the upcoming purchase of the Duanesburg YMCA by the county and its donation to the school board or to the district. I guess the thing I would like to bring out is that I had a unique opportunity as being a former member of the Duanesburg YMCA Advisory Council. And when the Y closed, the council went through different aspects of trying to reopen the Y. We found different folks to do it. However, there was a lot of challenges with the Y and their desire to go ahead and reopen it. And as we looked at the different options, the one that we always came back to was the building really being owned by an entity like the school or the county or something like that. That was the most financially, I'll say, sustainable. So I guess the thing I really want to bring forth is that, you know, there's a lot of talk about there and concerns about purchase of the property and the use. And I can say this from my limited advantage or my advantage of being on the advisory council and working with different organizations in the community, it really truly is the best way for us to go. And there are a lot of opportunities out there that once purchased will be, you know, will come out. So, you know, even though the county purchases, the board still needs to approve the donation. So I guess as part of my request is that please consider that. It definitely will be a benefit for the community as a whole. And I guess this to follow up, it really is, I would look at it as a new chapter. It's really gone through three chapters as a DAC, as the YMCA, and now really a larger community setting, not only serving Duanesburg, but the whole Schoharie Valley area. So thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Yes, sir. Please come forward. And if you could just share your name with us, please.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Packard. I'm a resident of Duanesburg. I have been a member of the DAC since 2008. I've gotten the opportunity to witness the opportunities that creates. As a way of background, I was the former social service commissioner for Schenectady County. So things like youth development, wellness, and mental fitness are really important in this community. There is nothing like the Duanesburg Community Center or the Y anywhere in a vicinity that is reasonable to get to. Once the Y closed, I swim competitively and it left me with no place to go. And when the Y did reopen, I went to Guilderland, but I can say that not a lot of people from Duanesburg were ever at Guilderland. And I think that had to do with the distance that people had to travel to be able to participate. But what I did see in my time there were things that I saw that were incredibly valuable. The swim program, teaching kids to swim. Drownings are a huge issue among children in all across America. The opportunity to teach kids to swim is invaluable. The opportunity to have a youth swim program has been invaluable, and they've demonstrated real success with kids going on to college as a result of that experience, and the Duanesburg school system getting a varsity swim team. This facility is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And while there will be challenges, I think there are also opportunities to look at this facility not as a school building, but as an opportunity to partner with the community, with not-for-profit organizations, and with the county. There is youth development programs you can collaborate on with the Schenectady Youth Bureau. There are mental health programs you can collaborate with. There's the social determinants of health with the county health department. There is partnerships you might be able to develop with the juvenile probation department. And certainly there are not-for-profit organizations. I watched the pickleball group grow from nothing into one of the biggest programs around, and those guys and those ladies are there constantly. So I'd encourage you to look at this as an entrepreneurial opportunity, that don't look at it as a school building, but look at it as the opportunity to bring the community together. And the last thing I'll say is, watching adults and kids interact is a very healthy thing when it's done well. And I think you guys can pull that off at this facility with the collaboration of people like Walt and the group. Thank you very much for your time.
Does anyone else wish to speak? All right, then we'll move on to the superintendent's status report.
Okay, so we're going to do project roundup. So I'm going to talk about one project that we're currently doing, and then I'm going to talk about two projects that are in the works. So the project that is currently happening right now is the bus loop project over at the elementary school. You've probably seen some of the work down there. The topsoil's been removed and was removed very quickly. The grading was done. The installation of a stormwater retention system, which you can see in that picture, has been completed. And I think that they were in the process of covering that up today. And so the project is going very smoothly. We were able to capture a lot of fill from the project too, that now we have a little dirt bank that we can use for future projects. I think it was like 3,000 yards of really exciting dirt, according to our facilities director. And that project's going really well. I do want to remind everybody that even though the plan was to have this project totally completed over the summer, supply chain issues really are affecting lots of different things. I think that we talked to the construction manager about a lot of window factories in North America and other places being shut down. And so some of the largest ones have shut down. And so it's very difficult to get items like windows, and that's part of this project. So unfortunately, the window part of this project, the windows are going to go in that front of the elementary school. That won't happen until mid to late October on second shift. So after students have left, we'll have to figure out how to rotate kids out of the class that's being renovated. We think that they'll be able to do a room a night or a couple of rooms a night. And so we'll be inconvenienced for a while that's happening. But that's the situation that we're in. So really pleased with how that project's going. And also really pleased that we're able to also pave the elementary parking lot. It just so happens that the same person doing the paving on the bus loop project will also be doing the elementary school parking lot. So hopefully they can communicate well with themselves, and nothing bad will happen during that. I do want to talk a little bit about, so my mantra for the year is about assuming the positive intent of everybody. I think that it's important to recognize how traumatic the last couple of years have been for everybody. And also, that's had a lot of effects on us, how we interact with each other, how we communicate with each other. And it's kept us apart. And I think that as people are apart, they forget that everybody has the same mission here. So there's not one person in the room or in the district who doesn't want what's best for kids and the community, right? And so I would just ask people, when considering projects like the YMCA project, which I'm going to talk about now, is to first assume positive intent. First assume that what we're trying to do is something that's for the benefit of our kids and the community. And then I'm not naive. I know that over time, people do teach you whether they have positive intent or not, but it's still beneficial to continue to optimistically believe that we're all on the same team. And I really do believe that. And so I just want to start off this new year with new board members and new president and vice president by talking about my mantra. And that leads me to talking about the YMCA project. So I talked about this at the last board meeting, but I'll continue to talk about it because I think it's good to repeat some of the elements that we're looking for in the project so that new people get a chance to hear. So one of the things that we're going to be able to do if we were to accept the building, and I think right now Jeff is going to the other meeting to find out whether or not they're actually going to purchase and try to donate the building. But if we choose to accept the building, there's lots of opportunities. And so a lot of this has already been done for me, but I'll kind of reiterate some of the things. It's important that we develop programs for early childhood education. And we do have a shortage of spaces. So we know we have a need to expand our UPK program. We have 14 or 15 kids on the waiting list right now. And so we know we do need another classroom. We weren't able to open up something. This is going to allow us the opportunity to do that. And then hopefully down the road, expand even further into a 3-year-old program. So being able to offer a 3- and 4-year-old program that's a high quality childcare education program for community members, I think is a really positive and needed step. There's not a lot of childcare options in this area. I think Schenectady County is considered a childcare desert. Another thing that we're going to be able to do is, of course, enhance our athletic program and PE program, but just to remind everybody why we have those programs. So athletics and PE and other kinds of wellness programs are really important right now to give kids a sense of that connection to the school district and to each other. And so being excited about something, I think is definitely a great thing for them. And it is a new and different and exciting environment. And now we do have some students, as you know, some of our students don't know how to swim, and we'll be able to introduce this into our PE classes. We've already been contacted by other school districts that want to do the same. And so I do think that that is an important element to add to PE. I also talk about continuing education. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to work with organizations like the gentleman before me mentioned, but also with higher ed institutions. A lot of opportunities to work with community colleges, and some higher ed institutions already read about this project in the paper and have reached out to say that they would be interested in doing stuff in that facility. I think there's also possibilities to bring certain BOCES classes that they offer at the Schoharie Center right now, even closer to us, which I think is beneficial. So continuing ed is really important as well. We're also going to continue to gain partners. I am of a mindset that you become a healthier and more productive school community, not by keeping people out, but by inviting groups in and participating with them in productive ways. So having partners like Schenectady County, like hopefully the town in the future, hopefully senior organizations, youth organizations, organizations like the Special Olympics. These are all opportunities for our kids to learn and grow. And I'm really excited about all the partnership opportunities that will come. Since that story appeared in the paper, I've already been contacted by a whole bunch of other organizations that worked out of the Y that were very excited to see something happening with it and reaching out to see if they can be a part of it. So it's nice to kind of be a hub for partnership in this community. I'll also talk about after school and summer enrichment opportunities. So moving the after school program back down to the Y it's a great location for after school wraparound care, especially if we already have UPK at that site in the future. And so after school care is a great thing. And also there's tons of summer enrichment opportunities on the grounds of that place. There's also opportunities to build trails and lots of other things in the future. Community gardens, people were talking about, and I think that just about everybody has their own project idea, and hopefully we can take advantage of a lot of those. And then finally, the community engagement piece is really important. So I know that it is true that it's atypical for schools to participate in not just looking at the education of their K-12 population, but to expand those educational opportunities to the larger community. I think it's really important that schools reach out to not just the students that we serve, but the community as a whole. And so there's lots of opportunities for wellness and other kinds of programming that people really need. pickleball was an essential element of people's lives. And when that was taken away, they not only lost the opportunity to be fit and active, they lost that connection with each other. So putting our kids in a community that is happier and more connected is also beneficial to all of us. So there are a lot of opportunities about the why, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that I'm certainly not going into this thinking that this gift is free, because it certainly is not. So there are definite costs to taking over a facility of this size. It's very complex. There's a lot of different things that we've considered when looking to see whether or not the school district could take on a facility like this. And it's also important to know that, because I think I saw some folks talking about taxes, and they automatically assume that because the school district might be taking over this facility, then that would mean that people's taxes would be raised. That's not the case. First of all, I think that raising taxes beyond a minimal amount would be very unpopular in the community. This community's been hit really hard, especially over the last couple of years, and we're definitely aware of that. The second thing that would prevent us from doing that is a tax cap. So we're actually prevented from raising taxes to do stuff like that. So while our taxes are going to raise a small amount every year just because cost of living increases, we think that we can pay for this facility or get very, very close to paying for the facility by offsetting it through other means. So, so everybody knows, because there was an awful lot of numbers that I heard about being bantered. There's lots of different expenses in running this place. The utilities are definitely the most expensive thing, especially as fuel costs rise. And so these are our estimates that are based on 3 years of usage, and also based on what the school can do through some of its contracts. One of the things that we're able to do that the YMCA wasn't able to do is to use some of those resources that are available for school facilities. So we would look to be staffing this very minimally. We would have a maintenance worker at the site that would be from the school. Other than that, we're looking to actually lease out the operations of the gym facility to another organization, and we'll do that through an RFP. And so still working on what the details of that will look like, but it's not our intent to be the sole operator of a community gym. We just don't have the capacity or the people to do that, nor do we have the know-how of how to make a gym successful, but there are people out there who do and who have expressed interest in, in doing this very thing. Yeah. So we'll do it. We'll request proposals be sent, and whether it's the school district requesting those proposals or the county requesting those proposals, I'm not sure how that would work right now, but we would do it in a public process so that everybody gets a chance to bid. And usually through those processes, you're able to set certain parameters that you're looking for. And the parameters that we would definitely be looking for are what will help us best offset our operational expenses while keeping the cost of membership very low for the community. So those are, it's important to us that everybody be able to participate in this endeavor. Yeah. Thank you. Yep.
Did you get the numbers for your estimates from?
From the YMCA. Most
So
of them
were
are from the
those
YMCA.
numbers from like 2-3 years ago?
Some of
So
them
do we
were.
maybe need to consider looking into updating some of those numbers? Because I know
Yep.
for a fact aquatic expenses have gone up, like chlorine has gone up fivefold.
Yep. So those are expenses that we've researched too, based on what we have, the resources that we have. So those aren't probably like totally up to date, but they're as close as we can get. I know at least the fuel costs are about as up to date as we could get them. So I want to talk about the revenue side of things. So it's important to know how much a facility like this could bring in. So if you have about $250,000 that you're trying to make up, how do you get that $250,000 so that the school doesn't have to go into debt by operating a facility like this? So there are a couple numbers that I wanted to point out. So Ken Romansky, who originally was the operator of the DAC, his annual revenue was about 1.1 million. His biggest concern was the mortgage payments, which we wouldn't have to worry about. And so it's also important to know kind of what the pre-pandemic paying members situation looked like at the YMCA. And so we know that they had about 883. There were lots of members of the YMCA, but there were also a lot of not paying members. And so there were 883 paying units, and that was about $460,000 of membership dues. And so what we'd be looking for is a leasee that could come in probably well under that, but something that could get us very close to meeting our operational costs. Some other things, those were monthly dues, but
Okay.
annually, yep. And so there's other things that we have access to as well, like grants. And so already we've applied for a SAMS grant, and that is not a competitive grant, and we think we have a good possibility of getting that grant for $200,000. And then also there's other grants that we can use. We do have that federal stimulus money, some of which is devoted to wellness anyway, and so diverting it to this project is something that we could do. There's also the possibility of applying for grants annually. Grants are a tricky thing because most of the time they're for one-time use and not ongoing expenses. However, you can apply for different grants all the time, and we do have a grant rating service that we subscribe to, so we would look to do that, which we're taking advantage of a lot more these days. The other thing that we have the potential to get is state aid on construction and incidental costs for renovating the building. So even with one UPK classroom, we would be able to earn state aid. The eventual goal was 3 UPK classrooms in that facility. And then the construction and incidental costs in state aid that we'd be able to earn are down at the bottom of the screen. So there's a lot of possibilities for making up that $246,000. It's difficult to have a really accurate revenue picture until that RFP process happens. And that will give us a pretty good indication of, whether or not this is going to be successful. I'll also I wanted to talk about a clause in the agreement that the county has proposed. So that agreement has what's called a right of reverter clause. And so that would allow ownership to return to the county if the district doesn't use the property within 5 years for educational, athletic, or community purposes. The ownership would go back to the county. Same is true if we somehow find that we cannot operate the facility, it doesn't work out, and we discontinue the use of the property, then it would revert back to the county's ownership too. So the county's not entirely stepping away from this. Their intent is also to make sure that this is successful, and they certainly don't want to leave the district hanging. So I thought that that was an important note too, that even though there is risk, there's also the ability to, there is an escape clause if we need to use it. If by some chance these partnerships don't work out, there's not interest in running the gym, then we do have other options to explore. Okay. Any other questions about the Y facility? Yep.
I do. So I know that this is a gift, right, from Schenectady County, correct? The YMCA.
So yep. So they would be donating it. It would be a donation to the
Donation.
district, and I think the contract is for like $1.
Okay, so, I mean, is there some type of gift tax that the school, I know the school has, tax-free and everything, but I didn't know if there would be additional costs due to that.
Because it's a gift?
Right,
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
okay. The other concern that I have is, I know there's quite a few people that have gone to Dwaynesburg Community Center when it was at, and then the YMCA. I don't know, with the school being basically owning the building, and then having community members come in and out, um, will it be inundated with
No.
the amount
Yeah,
of
so
people?
the safety and security of the facility is definitely something that needs to be addressed. So right now, it's not built like a school building, so it does have kind of open flow. And so there'll have to be some changes. Like, for example, if we put a classroom in the front of the building, then we will have to have a separate entrance for those students, a way that, um, you know, either the operators are restricted from operating during a certain period of time, or we're able to kind of wall off community use stuff from kids stuff permanently. And there's other stuff that we've already looked into as well. Like, you know, you need to make sure that it has security cameras throughout, making sure that we have windows that are covered in bullet resistant film. But yeah, so it's not, there will have to be some sort of understanding with whichever partner we choose, that this is an operation where, you know, we need to respect the boundaries of each other. And so it'll have to be like, you know, we have it this time, you have it this time, if we're not able to totally kind of separate both community use stuff and kid use stuff. But yeah, that's definitely a concern. But I think it's something that we can do.
Now, if we don't get the expected memberships, the school's not solely depending on the membership fees, is that?
So the school would be leasing it. So the school would get its money from the leasee.
Okay.
And
okay.
so they would certainly care if they didn't get the members that they
Right.
needed. But we would also probably have an agreement with them as well to make sure that if they're not able to do that, then we can continue on. Any other questions about that? All right, last project, and this is I don't know, it keeps changing order in what's next, but this is what we're calling the Centennial Project. And so this is the next capital project. So the next capital project, the probable vote date for that right now is December 8th. And so there's a lot of timelines and stuff like that that need to be met prior to that. And certainly you'll get presentations that are way more detailed than this before that fact. You actually will have to vote on setting that referendum date down the road. But so this is just a preliminary idea so that you know where we're at. I did want to let everybody know, so those supply chain issues and inflationary cost stuff is really having an impact on capital projects. And so it unfortunately looks like there's some choices to be made in this project, even though all the things on our list are things that are needed. The money's not going to go as far as we had anticipated it would, because everything's more expensive right now. But I did want to give you an idea of kind of timeline stuff and what's on the scope right now as we're working through things. So first of all, the total project cost would be around $28 million. It's split up into two parts. $6 million that comes from fund balance or capital reserves, and $22 million that would come from that would be basically debt service that's coming off the books. And so the community would be voting to let us use the capital reserves and to bond $22 million to basically take out the new debt. And so we're looking at 2 phases over 3 summers. The first phase would happen in the spring and summer of 2024. And what we're looking at right now is for that phase to include the elementary playground, the exterior of the elementary school, and the roof of the elementary school, and possibly parts of the roof of the high school. So the school buildings have several roofs, like 20-something roofs apiece, and all of those roofs need to be replaced. Most of them need to be replaced. And so it's very important that we stay on top of that work, but it's also something that can be done in kind of a contained way. And then phase two would be that bonded money. So that bonded money can't be spent until 2025. And so we're looking at these 3 locations for that phase two. And these are the things that they would kind of encompass right now. So the elementary school, in addition to life safety things like windows, doors, fire alarms, other things that help people stay safe. The big ticket items in the elementary school would be the kitchen and cafeteria renovation, the 3rd grade wing renovation, and a lot of electrical work in the elementary school. In the junior senior high school, some of the same life safety stuff and the roofs as well, and also a kitchen and cafeteria renovation. There's a lot of mechanical upgrades and HVAC upgrades that need to take place in this building, especially the older parts of the building. And so a lot of those upgrades need to happen. And then the major renovations, so the stuff that you'll see in addition to the kitchen and cafeteria, are like the 1963 wing renovation. So that's that first wing when you first enter the school and you turn right. So that wing desperately needs some HVAC help and some new windows, and the flooring is also pretty old. And then there's a lot of things that kind of trickle once you start doing work in those rooms. And then the other areas that we're looking at are floors 2 and 3. So what's used as middle school spaces right now, those are things that are from 1920s, and those are things that are in pretty bad need of renovation and are also pretty undersized for classroom space, and also have pretty antiquated HVAC and power situations. So those are pretty significant. The area that I don't think that we're going to be able to touch with this project is the office area, at least how things stand right now with costs. That the old middle school office area is pretty underused right now. That might be something that has to wait for a future project just because it's not a need. It would be nice to do the renovation of the whole building, but it's very, very expensive to renovate an entire floor. The other things that are really important, but are things that people don't notice all the time, are the things up at the bus garage. So making sure that the bus barn is an incredibly important structure. It keeps the snow off the buses in the wintertime. And for that, we have to make sure that it stays good. And so it's got a metal roof, so it's in pretty good shape. The roof is in pretty good shape, but it does need some assistance on the side. The metal skin is rusting. And we also need a roof on the garage and a new skin for the bus garage itself. Something also needs to be done in the reskinning process with the size of the office. The office is very, very small there. It barely fits like a person, let alone all the other things that need to be stored in a transportation office. And I think that probably instead of we were looking at possibly adding conference space to do training there, but it looks like that it's probably possible to just expand the existing break room there to make that room be able to accommodate some training stuff. That bus garage also needs a wash bay. Right now there's a shower curtain that goes down the middle of the, this is a very common thing, so don't laugh at it. But what happens is that it does kind of speed up the rusting process of everything in the bus garage. And so having a wash bay that's just for that purpose is really important. And then also the bus garage needs some lighting and heating. So even though we don't see the bus garage all the time, it's important to make sure that transportation is running smoothly. We don't work without transportation, and so we need to give a little love to our bus facilities. So that is that capital project. And like I said, still in the planning phases of that, still kind of going through scope stuff. I was planning on doing some walks of this scope during the summer. I think I'm probably going to wait until the early fall because the vote's pushed back a little bit now. But definitely I'll be doing some walks with any community members who want to see what these areas look like. I think that's really helpful to see, you know, what does that 1920s wing look like. They're kept up very well, but they just need some updating. So that's that last project. Any questions about that? Okay, so that's the last of the projects.
The next item on the agenda is to approve minutes of June 14th, 2022 Board of Education meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Melissa. Second? Teresa?
Sure, yes.
All right. Questions or comments? Okay. Now, I just would note for the new members, you weren't on the board at the last meeting, so you wouldn't want to vote on this item.
Do we just say abstain then? Okay.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Board of Education standing committees. Were there any meetings? I don't think so. And I'll have to get an email out to see what interest is in the committees going forward. Now we move on to financial. Accept legal counsel agreement with Honeywell Law Firm, PLLC. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve the agreement between Honeywell Law Firm, PLLC, and Duanesburg Central School District for legal services during the 2022-2023 school year. This agreement shall not be binding on the parties until authorized and signed by each party's respective representatives. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Melissa. Second?
Second.
Francis? Questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
I just noticed that we're talking about Honeywell Law Firm as well as Gervin and Ferlazio. Are they representing the school in different capacities?
Yep. So Honeywell we typically use for projects.
Okay.
And Gervin and Filazzo we use for pretty much all of our general counsel, special ed stuff.
Thank you for that
everything else.
clarification.
It's because they specialize in those areas, pretty much?
Yeah, I think that Honeywell does different work with different districts, but that's what we use them for.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Next financial item. Accept legal counsel agreement with Gervin and Ferlazzo, PC. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve the agreement between Gervin and Ferlazzo, PC, and Duanesburg Central School District for legal services during the 2022-2023 school year. This agreement shall not be binding on the parties until authorized and signed by each party's respective representatives. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Teresa, thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Next item. Accept claims auditors' reports of June 16 and July 1st, 2022. Accept claims auditors' comments on general warrants A42 in the amount of $413,388.55 and general warrants HP5 in the amount of $8,326 dated June 16th, 2022. A44 in the amount of $301,887.37. HP6 in the amount of $4,600.02 dated June 30, 2022. And general warrant A1 in in the amount of $252,660.94 dated July 1st, 2022. Do I have a motion?
A motion?
Thank you, Sarah, and
I'll second.
Tony, second. I'm sorry, Avis, my apologies.
That's all right.
Okay, questions and comments?
I'll just say that the A1 is something that we get written up for every single year and will continue to be written up for every single year. And that's because we have to do July business before the July board meeting. And so that's just a non-conforming practice, and it is what it is. And so we'll accept that comment. The other thing that is in the other one is a Jostens yearbook note. And so there's been a couple of times that the yearbook has been short funds and has needed the district to kind of bail it out as we would other clubs. And so that's what that note's for.
Okay, any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Still on financial. Approve participation on cooperative bidding. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve participating in cooperative bidding for the 2022-2023 school year as recommended by the Assistant Superintendent of Management Services. The lead agency is Capital Region BOCES. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Francis, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Teresa, thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Last financial item. Approve ECA extra coaches assistance. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the MOA for additional varsity assistant coach positions to the DTA contract, effective with the start of the 2022-2023 school year. The stipend for this ECA shall be $1,250 per season. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Avis. Second.
I'll second.
Tony, thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on to other. Recommendation that the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the CSE meetings and their minutes from the June 13, 15, 21, 22, and July 5, 2022 meetings. Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Thank you, Melissa. Second?
Okay.
Tony? All right, questions or comments?
What is CSE?
Committee on Special Education.
Actually, this is a question that came up. It's really more for Jim. Why do we see these as a board?
Because it's the law.
That's a fine answer. It's just
I don't know. I really don't know. These are things that are just some of those things that are approved by the board, even though they must happen anyway.
Mhm.
I don't know how to answer you, Francis.
It's fine. It's just
It's a great question, though.
It seems like we don't get reports on other RTI throughout the
I
other building.
think it's because part of it's because these do have expenses attached to them. So these services like speech language therapy, resource room, things like that have costs associated with them. So I think that's probably why.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
We're
I think
supposed
we'll
to
abstain
right?
because.
Okay, sorry. My bad.
No, that's good. Next item, approve disposal of obsolete books. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve the disposal of the obsolete books from the high school English teachers and librarians as per lists attached and recommended by the school principals. Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Thank you, Melissa. Second?
I'll second.
Tony? Thanks. Questions or comments?
I think, should the recommended action read the high school and elementary school? Just because we have book lists from both. It doesn't mention the elementary school in the action item.
I have school principals.
Okay.
Do you want me to split out for high school and whatever?
It says at the beginning, it says disposal of the obsolete books from the high school English teachers and librarians. It should probably just say from teachers and librarians would probably
Just
make
take
it
the
clear.
high school part out.
Yes.
That's fine.
I think I probably read one of these copies of your Ulysses.
Your name's probably scribbled.
Probably, yeah.
That's why we're having to
That's
dispose
fine.
of the book.
You're just scrubbing me out, it's cool.
Are these, all of the titles of these books, are they being removed permanently from the libraries and the schoolrooms, or what's the reason for their disposal?
Because they're old and not usable anymore. They fall apart after a while, especially if they're paperbacks. And some of the things, Celeste, or any of these things, none of these things are being sold or auctioned. Or,
They're not, they are being put out for anyone to take.
yeah.
And what's not taken, the teachers and librarians, they give them, they ask different clinics and halfway houses, different organizations if they want them.
If they're usable.
Yeah.
We have a policy on how to process books. We just don't send them out to the dumpster.
Sure. So are they being removed from the curriculum altogether, or just
These copies are just.
Are they
being-
just these
being
copies
replaced?
themselves? Okay,
Okay.
I just was curious. Thank you.
On the books, they have to tell us what's wrong with them.
Mm.
Like, so they'll tell you, they're poor condition, they're ripped, they're from 1963, obsolete, they're moldy, they're musty, they're missing chapters,
Pages, yeah.
or they have not been taken out in 10 years.
Or Francis wrote his name in the
Or I wrote my name in it.
You're getting those all back.
Yeah.
Just slip them all in my son's backpack.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on to appointments. Rescind appointments. Resolved that both appointments of Christopher Allard, part-time cleaner, effective July 1st, 2022, and Jennifer Knight, school secretary, effective July 25, 2022, approved on June 14, 2022, are hereby rescinded. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Sarah. A second?
A second.
Teresa. Questions or comments?
Just how goes the search for a new school secretary? That feels important.
I think that we're closing in on one of the two that we need in the high school. So we need a guidance secretary and a high school secretary, both really important positions. I think we're closing in on one. So we'll see, hopefully soon.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Approve terminations, added July 12th, 2022. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Assistant Superintendent of Schools, the Duanesburg Central School District Board of Education hereby terminates the employment of Joseph Rapp, effective July 11, and Joseph Matson, effective July 12, 2022. Do I have a motion?
No motion.
Francis, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Tony, thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I feel like I should abstain. I don't really know anything about this topic.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Just give me a moment here. Accept resignation, B. Jenkins. Recommendation that the Board of Education accept the resignation of Benjamin Jenkins, 7 through 12 science teacher, effective August 12, 2022. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Teresa. A second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Avis. Questions or comments?
I'd just like to say he was a good teacher. Sad to lose him.
So, any luck on finding a new science teacher?
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, final appointments item. Approve appointments. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve the following appointments as recommended by the superintendent, principals, and athletic director. ECA appointments are for the applicable 2022-2023 school year and sports season, beginning with preseason practice and ending at the conclusion of the season, including sectional play. All appointments are employees at will, and appointment at this time does not guarantee employment for the entire school year term season. Alexis Hicks, substitute teacher. Phil Carducci, cross-country assistant coach. Megan Capusta, volleyball assistant coach. ECA list as attached. Summer work list as attached. Joe Hiltz, interim transportation director, effective July 5, 2022. Krishana Way Prater, transportation director, effective July 25, 2022. Probationary appointment, in effect for 52 weeks, effective July 25, 2022, pending fingerprint clearance. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Melissa. A second?
I'll second.
Tony, thanks. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, next up we have a discussion item. Memorial nomination.
Can we give some background?
Yes, please.
So we had a nomination for someone to have the track named after him. They were looking to name the track after Frank DeMasi. So this became something that we put into policy last year. And so I think the policy is attached to. This is the first time that we've had to talk about whether or not we would be memorializing somebody in this way. I think that one of the reasons why we adopted the policy is because there were a lot of things on campus that were named after folks. Not that they're not deserving, but all of those things require upkeep and a certain amount of dignity when you're doing projects and things like that. And so it was getting to the point where it was sort of hard to do things without disturbing a memorial site. And so that's why I think the policy was adopted. And so now folks have used this form, and they know what the policy is because it's been sent to them, and they're still recommending that the track be named after Coach DeMasi. The other thing that's kind of a wrinkle in this is that the field is already dedicated to someone. So there's a plaque already that's dedicated to former Superintendent Geider. And so whether that meant just the green space or the entire field is another question to consider. And so it's really, so since this is the first time that we've done this, I think it's probably worth the board having a discussion to recommend what should be done in this case.
Is there a way to find out? I mean, is there any history for the field that was?
It's your, I mean, no, we know that it's, when it was dedicated, it was dedicated for just the field.
Itself.
It says the
okay.
field.
Okay.
And so they're saying that within the field, the track part, that should be dedicated to this former coach. So it's really up to you.
I would just advocate that we work on, if this is our centennial year, and work on a Hall of Fame, and if we need to move the existing plaques that are in that Hall of Fame for a new wall, and then we can just keep adding to them. It would be nice for everyone to see everything at once and what people are recognized for, and have some information about them, just to keep it streamlined and fair, in my opinion.
So is the problem having the plaque at the actual space of the memorial? I guess I'm a little bit confused on, like, are we not allowed to memorialize these coaches or past superintendents at all,
I
or?
believe it's the space, because then if we have another capital project, we get a new track, then
Yeah.
then we have to,
Or if we have to
Move
remove the
everything.
track because we got to put more
Yeah.
building.
so if we
Or,
have something that's not to be moved,
Um,
it's easier.
I mean, Middleburg ran into a problem a couple years ago. They had to remove a bunch of memorial trees because they were unfortunately old and passing away. And it, as I understand it, became a real problem. So these are living, functioning facilities that provide services, and they're going to change over time. It feels difficult to lock any of it in place like that. Is my opinion. I am perfectly, I loved the Hall of Fame when I was here, and I would love to see that reinvigorated around the 100-year anniversary would be great. But the actual facilities, I don't know. I think it's a difficult. They need to be flexible for what they can be used for, is my opinion.
I truly believe that when the field, that wasn't a field, I mean, there's some people have to remember that was partly put there because I-88 was built, because there was nothing there. That became, the track wasn't here. I mean, my first few years of coaching track, we ran around the church. That's how we, that's it. So when the whole thing was there, that was a cinder track and field. That it was supposed to encompass the entire thing. Charlie Geider was here for many years as a teacher, as an administrator, finally as a superintendent, community member. His kids graduated from here. Everything. He was around forever. He did it all. I mean, there's pictures of him in the yearbook with the white socks and the white sneakers, and I mean, coached basketball, baseball, and everything else that was here. That's why that's there, because he put so much into this community, into the athletic, and everything else. You can't. I know that Frank DeMasi was a good coach, and the kids liked him, and whatever. But it's like you can't memorialize, like we've talked about. You can't memorialize every single person that people. I just feel like, I don't know, you can give him a bench. And I know Rick Moreno is the softball field. Well, he was a janitor maintenance worker at the elementary school
He
who
would
put
prefer
his
janitors.
life into everything. He's the one who made that track like one of the best cinder tracks in this area. He made that softball field. He would roll it, and he would do everything to it every single day that there was a game. So, I mean, these were people that were here for a long time that put a lot of work into this community, and they worked here. They just weren't coaching here. I don't know. That it makes it so minimal, but I just think it's a very difficult thing to remove something. If you want to, the Hall of Fame is a good thing. It's everybody that's been a part of Duanesburg Central School, and there's a whole nominating committee, or it used to be, and we would do it every first day of school.
Right.
And that's how that came about. But, I mean, that's just my opinion.
I'm just wondering, is there kind of a way to sort of marry those two ideas? So have the Hall of Fame, and under Frank DeMasi's name, just say the track is a memorialized space of his. Now, therefore, if it ever needs to be redone or taken out, like, that space is kind of the memorial, but actually not stopping you from taking out the track when it needs redone. Yeah, the plaque, and it can be in the Hall of Fame. Something along those lines, and I don't know if that.
That might be an interesting compromise. I mean, this room is an excellent demonstration of the multi-use problem, though. Back when the Jobina Hall existed over there, and it was essentially a half gym, it made sense as the wrestling center to be named after the wrestling coach. We now have an auditorium. I mean, back half can be used for wrestling, but is named after the wrestling coach, which is, it feels weird that the auditorium's not named after someone who, stage, and we had an opera singer that came to graduate from here. We've had people that have gone into the arts. But I do, attaching something to the Hall of Fame might make sense. That way, if the space does change, the plaque may be out of date, but it's not a situation.
From my perspective, the only thing that I would like to see on all these memorial spaces is that context is added. It's really nice that we have the article about Coach Benna outside because you know why. So there's a lot of places around the district that are dedicated to people with no context. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to take on, is to try to add some context so that people know why these things were done. So it kind of maintains its historical purpose.
Sure.
Might be nice for the students to do some of that research and that be part of their project.
Absolutely love it. It would be a fantastic,
All the other things they have to learn.
fantastic Eagle Scout project for somebody. So it's a really great project for people who love history. Hey.
Or gold.
I would
Girls.
I would note that the policy says memorials may not include the renaming of school property. So, in spite of the merits, renaming may not be appropriate here, but the Hall of Fame may be. Are all Hall of Fame, are there like plaques displayed in one area? Or would it be possible to get like a sort of a Hall of Fame plaque that you could hang on like the fence of the track? So it's not really dedicated to this person, but that kind of associates their name with the facility. And then later, if modifications necessary, well, the plaque can just be moved somewhere else.
What we can do too is we can mock up what some of those things might look like, and bring it to the board so you can take a look and tell me what you like best.
I'd like to discuss that option further, because I think that is part of, bringing the community and everybody in, because Mr. DeMasi was my coach for 4 years, or 3 actually. He came when I was a sophomore. And, people do want to see that memory live on in some way. So to be able to at least acknowledge it, I think is important.
For right now, how would you like to get back to the Lynches? Would you like to tell them that we're still considering? Is that what you'd like to do?
Yes.
I don't know that I want to say we're still considering naming the track as they've requested, but we are absolutely considering a memorialization path.
Like, what's
Discussing options.
Discussing options, because I don't want to keep leading them on this possibility that,
Yep.
because that is, I suppose, an option, but I don't think it's the one we're leaning towards, based on our policy even.
Is that the consensus? Okay. So would you like me to do that? I can respond back to them and tell them that. Okay. All right.
All right. Next item on the agenda is information concerning an agreement with Atlantic Testing Lab.
Probably should just say that this is something that we did in the scope of the capital project at the bus loop. So
Okay, and the next item is motion to move to executive session. To discuss real estate acquisition and personnel. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Thank you, Sarah. Second?
Second.
Teresa, thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? abstentions? Okay. I would just note for the public, we're going to be going into executive session, and when we come out, we're going to close the regular meeting, so there's really no more business to observe. Thank you all for coming tonight.